Um, I grew up playing football quite a lot, so football for me sort of became that place where if I wanted to say something, it was where I could. So it was one of them situations where even though I had the anticipation, it was my speech would just somehow just naturally just
Yeah.
be when we were saying we could relate to these people, we can also relate to people who experience anything that's got adversity to. And whereas, why are you praising me for not stammering when really the hard part is when I to stammer and I have to find a technique that works to overcome that.
Welcome to the Winners Mindset podcast. Anne Marie, how are you?
I'm great, thank you very much. How are you?
Really well, thank you. And I really appreciate you coming on today. I know this is a unique one for me. We both have stammers, and it's just really amazing that we can both talk and share kind of our kind of experiences. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your background. Just so just to start off, when did you first find out about yours, Stammer?
So I started stammering at the age of 7, um, and it didn't I it didn't really become an issue at all.
Yeah.
Um, it only really started to affect me when I'd reached the age of say like 13 and 14, and in that sort of transition from primary school to uh, high school.
Yeah. And just talk to me about kind of how kind of affected you then. So what ways? Where was it harder in school, outside of school? What challenges?
It was definitely harder in school, um, because I think outside of school you don't really have there's different pressures. I think stammering is definitely something that relates to who you're talking to, where you are.
Yeah.
And I think from obviously for a lot of teenagers, school is rather a taunting experience. So it would have impacted my confidence at, at those sort of younger teenage years, and my um I wouldn't necessarily say it impacted my ability to socialize, but it was definitely a anticipation. There was like a extra wall there.
Yeah. And I feel like that's where I really find it hard, even me. So you mentioned there um within within class and school, you'd find that really hard. For me, it's that, and it's also the friendship aspect. Like I find it hard to meet people. I find it hard to interact because the first impression that I pass people is Ed, and I can say that actually fine now. But for me, when I say my name in front of new people, like I find that really hard. So that's one of my big kind of challenges.
Yeah.
So what challenges do you have in terms of, what's your big challenge? What's your big fear? Is it talking on the phone? Is it saying your name? So what is your biggest fear?
With stammering, it's the it's sort of the block that you experience and the sort of um length that that potential time is. Um, so obviously, if someone asks what your name is, that's an initial. You get like that uh, uh, initial sort of uh, panic because you've never met this person before, and even though you've not necessarily had a negative experience, you
Yeah,
still there's still all of this anticipation and fear that comes along with how that how the other person to um to your stammer.
yeah, for sure. I can really remember once when that because the blocks are stuff that you can control. It's like you're talking like me and you right now, and I'll be like my chest will go tight and I can't actually say the word. Like there's nothing I
Yeah,
can do. And I'm sure you've been in those positions before. If
hundreds of times.
hundreds of times if you're talking in front of the class, or just remember once while I was in a drama class, it was a few years ago, and it was a new teacher and they asked me to say my name, and I remember just blocking for like 30 seconds, and then I just said my last name, and everyone just laughed like, like what's he doing, because that's not his name, that's his
Yeah,
last name. And there's so many times, I'm sure you've been in those positions, and people need to be aware that, if we're having a block, me and you are having a block, or if other people are having a block, just let them say it, because even at times other people will think maybe the best course of action would be let's help them say it, but that's maybe not really the best course of action, because we want to feel
no,
in control of what we're saying, because that's one of the real positives of us having it. And as we talked about, we don't want to focus on the negative. We want to focus on really embracing it. So I just want to ask you this now. There are people that are being bullied because of it. That's going to happen. That's with anything in life. People are always going to name people and kind of pick on people. Have you had any kind of experiences that you've been in a position of kind of vulnerability, in that sense?
um, I can't say I've ever been uh bullied for it. I think we all, no matter who we all have a form of adversity that we all have to overcome, no matter who you are, where you're from. And I think in these situations and discussing topics like this, it's important to remain um, holistic um, on your um, topics. I think there has been situations where I've heard comments made about it, or people have made comments in a negative manner, but it hasn't necessarily been something that I've not been able to work through
Yeah.
um or overcome in those situations.
You just touched on it there really, really well. I think you coming through adversity. Any person in life has got their own kind of challenges. We have our challenges. Loads of everybody in life has their own challenges, and it's about coming through that. It's about being in yourself. And what doesn't help is when, because what we're going through we can't control. So it hurts a lot, I bet. And I've not really been massively bullied, but I'm sure people that have, they can't control it. It's out of your hands, it's out of your control, and that's what's really frustrating about it. And I can bet. How did you escape as a young teenager? Because when you've had a hard day, how did you just escape from your stammer? How did you kind of put your mind at ease? What was your happy place?
Um, I grew up playing football quite a lot, so football for me sort of became that place where if I wanted to say something, it was where I could. So it was one of them situations where even though I had the anticipation, it was my speech would just somehow just naturally just
Yeah.
be that little bit more uh, fluent. And I hate the word fluent because nobody actually for the purpose of explaining it. And I wouldn't, although football for me was massive, any form of sports really, just the fact of being active
Yeah,
was a massive uh, uh, help for me.
for sure. It's crazy because I'm just going to ask you this really quickly because when I play sport and when I play football, it's like it just goes. Like I'll be shouting on
Yeah,
the, I'll be talking to it, and do you think it's crazy? Is when
it's the
you're
weirdest thing, isn't it?
it is
When it
weird.
actually happens, it's the weirdest of things to happen to you.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's also when you're with people. With some people, I can talk perfectly fine to because I feel comfortable in their
Mm,
area, in their kind of area, in their kind of bubble, and that's with football too. So that's with football. I feel fine and I can talk fine. I don't feel any need to talk properly or talk this way. I'm like really really comfortable. Of course, I'm gonna have the odd occasion where I do, but
yeah.
kind of a lot of the time I'm kind of confident in me and myself. So do you think with this it really matters where you are and who you're with and in your brain then it kind of processes where you're comfortable to where you are to be
Yeah, I really think that that is something that should have a lot more um research because different situations, different um places, different people all have an impact on or can have an impact on how comfortable you are to actually speak and not, I wouldn't say comfortable to speak, more how confident you are within you and your stammer.
for sure. Have you ever had any role models that you've looked up to?
Yeah, the internet cut out a little bit then.
Sorry, do you have any role models that you kind of look up to and that have helped you with your stammer?
Um, I think only mainly over like the recent years because obviously it's been quite a rare thing for people to speak so openly. Um, but I think Alex Scott did a podcast with, I'm not sure specifically what podcast it was on, but she was talking about her stammer and where she was years ago to how she is now, and that just hit, and I related with that quite a lot.
Yeah, I think you're really right. I think for me, it's how you kind of relate to people. I think
Yeah,
that's where it goes from there to here. I think my biggest role
yeah,
model I could say right now is my parents, my family with Cristiano Ronaldo. But for me with this, my biggest role model like you is Luke Ayling, because he's been open about it. Of the Leeds defender, he's also one of the captains there, and for him to be a captain and have to speak so much, have to do so
yeah,
many conferences, have to do so many have to do so many interviews, and still have a stammer is basically the pinnacle of it. That's where you want to be. That's where that doesn't really affect him, and that's where we want to be. We all want to look at it as kind of a positive thing. We want to, we
yeah.
want to embrace it. So this is what I'm going to ask you now. How proud are you of your stammer?
Um, over recent years, it's definitely improved. Um, and for me, I think it's taught me just a lot about myself, a lot about life and how to interact with people a in a more respectful sort of manner, because because it's more um it's more understanding that it's more understanding to drive the conversation in a way that would make them feel comfortable, and it's about learning
Yeah.
about. So when we were saying we could relate to these people, we can also relate to people who experience anything that's got adversity to. And for me, over the recent years, having a stammer and speaking in such a way, for me, holds so much value, and it can increase your confidence and your the sort of type of conversations you have in a massive. Yeah, it can definitely increase them more massively.
It's amazing because I had a podcast with Sean, Sean, Sean Jackson, and he has an amputee leg. So
Mm.
basically, talking to him, and they're two very different things, and what he's been through is terrible. It's awful. And when we talk, yes, it's very, very different, but we've come from the same kind of thought process in a way. We both come through adversity of any kind, and we've had to fight something. So talking to all these different people, I know one of the other guys I talked to was was Trevino, and he owns a gym, and in the gym it's not really a normal gym. It basically enables people with amputee legs, old people, people that may have autism that don't like to go to gyms, and invites them in, and it's inclusive for all, and it's really embracing the fact that just because you have a disability, which I hate the word, by the way, I hate the word, just because you have that, that doesn't mean that you should stop doing what other people are doing. That doesn't make you less normal than him or her or she. Like, it's about embracing, it's about being part of something. And this is what we need. And as a society, this is where
Yeah,
the stage will come. You know, when will we be accepted? When will people be on TV because of it? When will more people be on TV? When will we'll be allowed to do more things? And I think for any boy and girl growing up now that may see this, it's about looking at this going, there's two people here, me and you talking on a podcast, going out to a few people, hundreds of people, and we're talking about it very openly. This can inspire a lot of people, and this is where it goes from here to there. So it's amazing to hear you talk like that. And what would you say to your younger self?
I genuinely don't think that my younger self could uh, comprehend what my life is now.
Yeah,
So what I would have expected it to be, which a lot of people who have adversities would expect, and the way that we are conditioned by society to um, believe that stammering is something that is wrong. Um, it's just it even now it's sort of still my thought process from when I was a kid to my thought process now. It's just changed so much. And I think for example, the gym that you was talking about previously, these are the kind of things that need to change, and they're the kind of things that need to be happening.
yeah,
Otherwise, changes like that aren't going to happen and aren't going to continue. And I think until we start um, talking about stammering, and we start creating these chances, it's not actually uh, going to change. And I think what's massively great about this podcast as well is that it almost introduces the desensitization station of stammering to the almost fluent uh, uh, listeners,
Yeah,
because that's another thing that needs to happen as well, in
I
my opinion.
yeah, for sure. I think like as we keep on talking about it and as we keep on mentioning it, I think people become more aware and they kind of think, that's what people need to do. They need to talk about it because then people will learn more about it. People will kind of embrace
Yeah,
it and it creates a whole new environment. I remember when I was saying to you, I think I I really want to be like a manager. I mean, football. I
yeah,
want
yeah,
to be a coach. I want to be a tier, and all these things. And I could sit here right now and think, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm talking. So, what job then will I do that it doesn't enable me to talk? You know, and that's what my younger self would think. But it's a completely different mindset through the whole thing. It's about,
yeah,
it's actually changing the perspective and changing the narrative of it to I hate it, it's a bad thing, wish I didn't have it, to I'm proud of it, I'm going to embrace it. And I'm just gonna learn more and more about because I'm really learning more about me every day with it.
yeah,
And
every day.
and you know, I just want to ask you what have you done in your life in terms of now what extent have you kind of challenged yourself? Can you talk about kind of experiences where you've took yourself out of your comfort zone and had to speak or had to do something that you wouldn't normally do, that you're really, really proud of?
Mm. Well, there's quite a lot of situations over the last sort of. So for example, with my job, all I do is talk every day. All I do is talk to people, and I meet loads of different people all the time, every single day. So overcoming that as well. Um, I now coach a football team. Um, I only started that say like last year, but that's come on massively. I think I do a lot of speaking uh there as well, and then with the end of season presentation, I'm gonna have to speak in front of uh, speak in front of the parents as well. So that's going to be another stone as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's about
Yeah,
working towards these milestones. Like for me, it was about going from here to here and each kind of bit at a time. And I think that's the
you
same
just
for you.
have to take it one bit at a time, don't you?
Exactly. Is it just yeah, you're really right. Like for me, doing the class presentations was for me the hardest thing ever. And I'm now
Yeah,
that. And then I was doing the podcast. Now I've done that. And what's the next? And keep on building on that kind of thing because by the end of it, you know, you'll be in a position where you can go to walk into anything in life and just have the
yeah,
confidence, have the mindset that you can push through it. Because yes, it's hard, and of course it's hard, but we're going through something, and a lot of people are going through their own stuff in life. And
yeah,
if you keep on pushing yourself against it, it just makes you in your mind think that you can take on anything and any challenge because of the adversity that you've already come through,
yeah.
which is really important. So just lastly now, what would you say to a person that doesn't know anything about stammering, and what would you like people to know about it?
Um, that's a very good question. Um, I think people often praise you and sort of congratulate you for being for not stammering,
Yeah.
when really, why are you praising me when that's normal for me? You don't praise someone when for example, if you was to climb Everest, you
Mm.
don't praise someone for looking at it, you praise it after they've climbed it.
Yeah.
Whereas, why are you praising me for not stammering when
I,
really the hard part is when I uh do stammer and I have to find a technique that works to overcome that. So I think those are the situations where you should be praising me, not when it's just like naturally just.
but I'm not just gonna tell you this now, but I've been doing my podcast for about a year and a half now, and out of this year and a half, that is the best point that I've heard made because it's just incredible what you just said because it's so and I didn't even think of that. Like that's took it to another level because people will praise you for being the kind of fluent and they'll say, "Oh, that was
Yeah,
really well done." But that's not me. And what we've just talked
yeah,
about, I kind of embracing it, being positive about it. You know, if you do stammer, actually, really well done. Like that's you. Like that's
yeah,
who I am, and I'm proud of it. It's changing
yeah.
that mindset from being fluent, and I don't really care if I'm fluent or not. Like I don't really need a well done. If I do stammer
No,
like are you going to tell me that's like is that's wrong to do
wrong.
like
Yeah, it's not.
where's the balance so just talking anyway is such a positive thing in itself and it's how
Yeah,
educate now the new generation has how we educate kids growing up now that are watching this to change the mindset from it and and if we can change the mindset about it then in not just about this but about any other disability with ADHD
yeah,
I hear people in school if they have a problem with with this like with dyslexia they'll moan about it or they'll be upset about it. I think we need to do more as a society to educate people that it's not a bad thing to be different. Because I'd rather be different than just the same as everyone else. So really valid point there, and just
yeah.
amazing you made. So I really appreciate that. Your time. You should be very proud of yourself because I think you've took another leap now because you're coming onto a podcast and it's hard to talk about your experiences. It's hard to talk about a topic where you've had to come through adversity of which you've done today, and it's just amazing to hear more and more people like you. And we need to do this more often because there'll be people seeing this. There'll be young you. There'll be young me seeing this, and they'll be going, "Wow!" Like that, and it'll change their life. And so it's incredible. So again, I really appreciate your time and thank you for watching the podcast.
Thank you very much.